want to support the censorship in China, right? Tell us about that.
Well, this is what we need to do. And people say it's hard, but I don't ever remember saying it was going to be easy. We have to stop cooperating with our own enslavement. And when things are being done that are fundamentally against the interests of people, then we need not to play our part in supporting that. And of course, if you want to see the world in the so-called West and where it's going, then look at China. Because China's been a closed society for, of course, a very long time, closed in terms of government control. And therefore, they've been able to push this on even quicker than they have in the West, where there's still some channels and checks and balances, though they're disappearing, to slow it down. And when you have these extraordinary hypocrites in Silicon Valley who talk about being progressive, which of course is equated with liberal when it's the opposite of it, and they act as censors for the Chinese government so that they can get in on the act in China. So it's not a case, I mean, how much money do the Zuckerbergs and such people and the Brins and the Pages, how much do they want? But of course, money in the end at that level is not even about just greed, though it's certainly that. It's about control money and you control so much else. And if they were genuine people, which they're not, they would be saying to the Chinese government, sorry, we represent freedom and justice and fairness and decency, and we are not going to get involved in your country if we have to censor anything. Instead, what you have are the same people talking about we must stop fake news, which is just a symbol for anything that's challenging the official narrative. We must protect people. We must not let people say that because someone might be upset. And at the same time, they are for not just financial reasons, but massively so. They are supporting this horror story of a regime in China. So we're dealing with absolute hypocrites. And when I hear the people like Bezos and Zuckerberg and Brin and Page and all these people and Dorsey at Twitter talk about stopping things that are not within our values. I mean, values, they don't have any. Because this is the point. And this is why no matter what people think about Alex Jones, whether they like him or whether they don't, his banning quite obviously in a coordinated way by these internet operations was a massive wake-up call for anyone who isn't paying attention. Because I have this view of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech means freedom to speak. It is not the freedom to say what some authority decides you can say and not say what it decides you can't. That is not freedom of speech. If anyone doesn't have the freedom to give their opinion, then no one does, because the only thing that's left is conforming to what authority says is acceptable. The key for me is this. Once you censor information and opinion speech before the point of delivery, you're going down the road of 1984 and then some. Because what that does is give an authority the power to decide then what can be said and heard and seen and what can't. And of course, what that authority does, and we've seen this, is they'll get the foot in the door by giving you an extreme example. We must stop jihadists recruiting on the internet and advocating violence on the internet. So because it's an extreme example, lots of people say, well, yeah, I agree, yeah, we've got to stop them, yeah, that's right, they need censoring, stopping. Yeah, but that's not where the authority stops. That's just stage one. We've gone through this. This is not a prediction. This is what's happening. And then they say, oh, we must stop that. So then the fake news came in, which, like I say, is just Orwell speak for anything that's being said that we don't want people to hear. And now it's more and more. And Alex Jones is banned, and so on, and many, many others. Because people say, well, you can't just say anything. Well, why not? You see, there are laws once something is spoken or written. There's laws of libel. There's laws that say you can't incite violence. The laws already exist to deal with what this censorship is claiming to deal with. The point is, it's allowed to be spoken. No one's censoring it before the point of delivery. And what this means is that there is no authority or no power for an authority to say, therefore, what can and cannot be seen and heard. Once it's delivered, then if it's inciting violence, there's other laws. But you are preventing any authority having the power to say what you can say and not say. And because it's being allowed to be spoken, the court of public opinion then has the information on which to decide if it thinks what is being said is acceptable or not. But it doesn't have that ability to make that decision if it never hears it, because some authority is saying that cannot be heard. And what this, well, he's a little boy in short trousers in my view. I mean, the idea that he runs Facebook is hilarious, you know, for Zuckerberg. But what he's saying now is that they are working on algorithms, and if they're working on them, then they have them. It's just a matter of justifying it being played out, because it's nothing to do with him. Algorithms that will censor information, of course, encoded in certain ways, the algorithms, to pick up all the things that the authorities don't want people to hear. And so we have this war now on the free flow of information and opinion. Of course, we've seen that so obviously in Britain with the constant and hysterical attacks on the opposition leader in Britain of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, where the Zionist lobby has been branding him an anti-Semite and the Labour Party an anti-Semite. Now, this is actually nothing to do with anti-Semitism, which is a misnomer anyway, because it actually means anti-Arab. The vast, great, overwhelming majority of Semite races and Semite peoples, which is a language group and not a race, are Arabic peoples. So even the very name is a misnomer. But it's nothing to do with stopping racism. It's to do with creating a chill on anyone who wants to expose or criticize the disgusting psychopathic regime that currently runs the government of Israel, headed by Netanyahu and his mob, because that's what it is. And you have in this country, you see, a conservative party currently in government that will never criticize Israel. You have what's left of it, a liberal Democrat party, so-called centre, that will never criticize Israel. You have the Blairite swathe of the parliamentary Labour Party, its members of parliament, who will never criticize Israel. Blair wouldn't allow it. Which left this group of people around Corbyn and Corbyn himself who were still willing to call out Israel for its disgusting treatment of Palestinian people and its manipulation of the affairs of other countries. So this whole abuse of the Labour Party and Corbyn over "you're an anti-Semite" is purely focused on so intimidating them, so getting them to want to be seen as not anti-Semitic, that they have now accepted this vastly, massively too broad definition of anti-Semitism, which is being accepted by the British government. Now the Labour Party has accepted it with a real minor weak rider, which was not the one that Corbyn wanted. And this new definition of anti-Semitism, which was orchestrated into being by the Zionist lobby, is aimed at one thing and one thing only: to so broaden the definition of anti-Semitic that there's basically nothing left you can say about the behavior of the Israeli government that will not be dubbed racism. And this is, I said in a video recently, this is not just for what Israel has done to the Palestinians. It's not only for what Israel is doing. It's for what Israel plans to do. They are getting their censorship in early. And, as we speak today, we've had a Russian plane shot down by Syrian defenses because they were responding to an outrageous and the latest in a constant barrage of military attacks by Israel on the sovereign government of Syria. And people should ask themselves why a country so tiny, with a total population of some 8 million out of a global population of 7.5 and counting billion, should have so much influence in the world, should be allowed to create so much mayhem, and at the same time be allowed to target critics as anti-Semites for no other reason than to silence any criticism of this psychopathic mob that currently runs the government of Israel. And what they do is, when you, as I have, talk about a psychopathic mob that run Israel, what they then say, you see, this is the game by weaponizing anti-Semitism. They say, he's saying all Jews are psychopaths. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm saying the current government of Israel is. With massive supporting evidence, by the way, accumulating and increasing by the day, even not the hour. And this is the game. It's using every weapon you can, weaponizing the term anti-Semitism, which is in effect exploiting the horrors that Jewish people experienced in Nazi Germany to pursue a campaign of censorship that suits a few people now. It's disgusting beyond belief. So you've got that. This goes into the whole thing about hate speech. Hate speech is to such a large extent another symbol for you're saying things we don't want people to hear. And fake news, ditto. The algorithms that the internet giants use on the grounds of and using the excuse of fake news and hate speech, etc. These are all connected. Like I say, there's a war on freedom of speech, and it's coming from every angle. And people need to have some frickin' backbone. Not wobbling like a jelly. Oh no, better not say that. What will people say? Oh, they might say I'm this, I might say I'm that. I couldn't care less personally. Call me what you like. I know what I am. I'm got a racist cell in me body. I think racism is insane. We're all one consciousness having different experiences for a very short time. The labels are just that. Labels for an experience. They're not an I. So my very philosophy on life and the nature of reality is that racism and judging people by race or by any other group tag is insanity and fundamental confirmation of a complete misunderstanding of the nature of reality itself. So I don't care what people hurl at me. They try to stop my public events. They're trying to silence me in many various ways, but I won't shut up. And the more people who will go down that road, the more freedom, and freedom of speech is the basis of all freedoms, will not be deleted. The more